Most people think flying is complicated, but in this video, I'm going to show you how to fly and land an aircraft using one finger. It's going to teach us how to better manage the airplane, especially during landing, and reinforce our priorities as a pilot to aviate, navigate, and communicate. Welcome aboard, everyone. So the reason I made this video is because I've been a pilot for almost 2 decades now, and in that time I've had a lot of passengers sit in the co-pilot seat and ask me lots of questions about the different gauges, instruments, avionics, and what it takes to fly a small twin turboprop like this Cessna Conquest we're flying right now, which leaves the impression that flying is really complicated. But as I'm going to show you in this video, the basics are a choreographed move between your hands, your feet, and what you see on the front windshield that makes flying really simple at the fundamental level, no matter what aircraft you're flying. A great example was when one of my flight instructors back when I was in flight school taught me to fly with one hand and one hand only in order to understand how to prioritize the different things that I needed to do in order to fly safely, aviating, navigating, and communicating in that order. It also helped me think more critically about every item on the aircraft checklist as I was flying. So let's see if I can successfully fly this visual approach and set the airplane up for landing using only one finger. We're going to be landing at Lethbridge Airport on runway 31 as depicted on the chart, and instead of flying the full RNAV procedure like you're seeing on this chart, we're actually cleared for the visual approach, so we're going to join for a right-hand base before we turn final for a full stop landing. The first thing we want to do is make sure the aircraft is trimmed properly. Rudder, aileron, and elevator trim should be set so that the airplane will basically fly itself with the autopilot off and without us touching the controls. All I have to do now is make small control inputs like the pressure from my finger to keep the aircraft flying on the right flight path. I can make turns, climbs, and descents with ease, and if there are any adjustments that I'm doing too often, I can compensate for that by adjusting the trim. By doing this with only one finger forces you to think about every move you make on the controls. And here's a shout out to Garmin Aviation. They're a big supporter of the channel, and obviously I'm using their avionics and all their equipment every single time I fly an airplane. And if you haven't had a chance, check out the Garmin Pilot app. It's fairly new to me, but I'm absolutely loving it. It's probably one of the top flight planning apps for pilots now, so definitely worth taking a look at. And of course, Flying Eyes Optics, they didn't ask to be in this video, but I figured I'd do this anyways because I absolutely love their sunglasses. They are made for pilots, by pilots, and they have some incredible features that make them my go-to sunnies from now on. They're great for flying, great for people who love the outdoors, and they're a small company, so I want to show them some love. If you want to buy a pair, you can use my discount code in the video description to save 10%. Alright, so as we descend towards Lethbridge, I'm going to set up the Garmin G600 and input our minimum altitudes into the altitude pre-select. And of course I'm going to use my other hand to do this because it's a physical knob that you have to turn in order to do that. And flying with one finger emphasizes the importance of having the aircraft properly trimmed. You can see how it's basically flying itself and just the most minimal inputs are required. I'm going to add a touch of power to both engines, and that's because if you haven't noticed, we do have the landing gear down, and with the landing gear down it creates quite a bit of drag, so our airplane's going to start descending faster, and to compensate for that we got to add a touch of power. And look how simple this flying is. Like, the plane's basically flying itself, and it's not completely smooth air. We do have the odd little bumps here as we come over. It is summertime in southern Alberta, so light turbulence is a blessing in this part of the country. We're going to bring the props up to 1900 RPM. That's what we need in order to get beta in reverse. We're going to add a touch of up nose elevator trim. And as we start a shallow turn towards final approach, we're going to do our BB Gumps check. It's belts, brakes, landing gear, check the undercarriage, make sure it's down, mixture, props, and switches. Switches meaning landing lights, taxi lights. Make sure the aircraft is depressurized before landing. We're going to contact Lethbridge Radio, which is the mandatory frequency, to let them know our position, our altitude, and what our intentions are. And just a reminder, we're landing on runway 31 for a full stop. We're going to add one more stage of flaps. Because we did that, we have to add some nose down elevator trim. And as we get closer to the ground, we're going to get into mechanical turbulence because it is quite windy today. I think it was a crosswind of about 15 knots. So with the bumps, I have to control the airplane a little bit more. And there's the runway just off our right. We do have a crosswind. It was actually more than 15 knots. Looking back at the METAR, it was around 18 to 20. So not unusual for Lethbridge area to have this type of wind. Now our speeds for approach are 130 knots, but on final we want to be about 120. You can even get down to about 115 or 110, and we want to cross the threshold at 105. And these knobs here are for the bleed air heat exchanger, so we can get a little bit of cooler air coming into the cabin. You can see we're about 112 knots now. We're going to do our short final checks, gear, props, flaps. We don't need a clearance, but we need to notify the mandatory frequency that we're short final. We're going to triple, quadruple check that the landing gear is down. And because we have the airplane trimmed down, you could probably fly the airplane right to the runway with one finger and start the flare. But for safety reasons, we're going to take back control, 2 hands on the controls, 1 on the power levers, 1 on the yoke, and we're going to cross the numbers at about 105. And I think I was a little fast here. I think I crossed about 107. And because it's a crosswind landing, we're going to touch the left main gear first, followed by the right, and then we'll lower the nose. We'll bring the power levers back into beta, and that will slow the aircraft up significantly, because even these 3-blade props create a lot of drag, so you don't really need to use the brakes. And that was a pretty good crosswind landing. I fly into this airport all the time, and it always seems to be a crosswind landing, so I've had a lot of practice. I think the highest crosswind I've had to deal with at this airport was 35 knots, and it was because one of the runways was closed, so the only option was taking the crosswind landing. We're going to exit the runway at this taxiway, which will bring us by a whole bunch of hangars where we're going to park. You can see the safe taxi on the Garmin G600 there. So even if you are completely new to this airport, if you got the Garmin equipment installed, then you're in good hands. As we cross the runway hold short lines, we are clear of the active, and why not do some finger exercises while we recap what we learned. Always aviate, navigate, and communicate. Don't forget, no matter what's going on, your top priority is always fly the airplane. And think critically about everything you do in the cockpit, everything you do on the aircraft checklist, and only having one hand to fly with forces you to have to think ahead and stay ahead of the airplane. Very important. Gotta watch out for this truck here, make sure it doesn't drive into the wing. We'll give him a wave, and just a reminder that you have to keep your eyes peeled, especially at these smaller airports, because a lot of times random people can get access to the airport, and you have aircraft owners driving around vehicles onto taxiways and ramps, and it's not as strictly controlled as, say, a controlled airport. And we're going to be parking on the other side of this hangar, so we got a taxi around, and we're looking for our marshaller, the guy that's going to wave us in and get us parked. And there's our ramp guy right there. And it's a good idea to do a scan of the ramp area, make sure there aren't any chocks, pylons, luggage, or any other debris on the ramp that you could run into and not notice it. Wintertime, you got to keep an eye out for snow drifts or piles of snow. And other airplanes. That's something you don't think of, but you'd be surprised how many aircraft collide with other airplanes while taxiing to the gate or the ramp area. And he's going to tell us to stop right there, so we're going to bring the power levers to flight idle, turn our radios off, generators off, pull the fuel off, and then we'll feather the props and bathe in the sweet sound of these turbines as they spool down. It is oh so sweet. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Little cheers to all the new viewers. And if you're curious on what it's like to become a pilot, what the process is, how to get your first aviation job, then I've got videos on my channel that you can check out to help get you started. Absolutely love and appreciate all the support, everybody. So we'll catch you on the next adventure. Happy and safe flying, everybody. Cheers.